how did you meet your wife? I was living in Vietnam, happy as could be. And it was time again for me to do, every 3 months, I had to do a physical exit for my visa. And usually I just took a bus to Cambodia, or I stayed in Cambodia for a week, and came back. So this time I had planned on flying to Krabi, Thailand to check that out. I thought, I got to leave the country anyway. I may as well go check out Thailand. But then a really big typhoon came around, and it was affecting Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines. I mean, it was a pretty damn big typhoon. So then I thought, well, I have to leave Vietnam. If I'm going to deal with a whole lot of rain, I'd rather be in the Philippines where I know my way around and I know how things work. So I talked to Gio, and at the time he was living in Davao del Sur. And he goes, well, he sent me some pictures of the condo he was staying at. And they had this really big pool, really nice. And I was like sold. And I was like, so I booked 10 days at the same, complex. And so we got to hang out every day. And then what happened was I was going to be there 10 days. On my 8th day, I wasn't dating anybody that night. And I was just, again, taking a break, just being home. And I was just playing around right around sundown. It was about 5:30 p.m. And I'm playing around on Facebook. And they had this thing on there. It's like, kind of like their version of Tinder, where you swipe right, swipe left kind of a thing. And they were like, just press a few buttons and it'll create a profile from your Facebook thing. And I thought, that might be fun. So I just, did that. So I only swiped maybe 15 or so profiles, and I really wasn't interested in any of them. But then when I saw hers, I was like, I gotta meet her. So I swiped right, but now she would have to swipe right in order for the two of us to communicate. Well, meanwhile, what I find out later is that she had no load on her phone. And just out of the blue that day, she asked her dad for like 50 pesos or something to go down to the Sari store, get some load just so she could check on her Facebook. So she goes down, and as soon as she, gets some data plan, she sees my swipe there on that thing. Now she had just gotten on it because she had broken up with this other guy. Basically, she found out he was married the whole time, so she dumped him. So we started chatting that night. Now it's the 8th night out of my 10th day, and then I got to fly back to Vietnam. So we chatted for only like an hour, and I even asked her for a photo ID, and she sent me her voter ID card, and I think she had another card too. It was like a postal ID. And I was like, okay, yeah, so you're legit. She was 21 at the time. So I said, well, I want to meet you. I'll meet you anywhere you want to meet. So we ended up meeting. She wanted to meet in a grocery store. So I was thinking, she's going to get me at the grocery store. And then she said, I'll only meet you if my mom can come along. And I was like, yeah, bring your mom, no problem. And I'm thinking, I know how this is going to go. We're going to talk. And then she's going to say, we have no groceries. I was like, you know what? I don't even care. I'll buy her $60 of groceries if I can just sit down and chat with her. I got to find out, more about her. So we met. They did not ask for groceries. And in fact, the whole reason she picked that place was because the only place to eat and sit was these little chicken kiosks where they would fry up fried chicken, just simple, food that was like 30 pesos each, 60 cents, And so like within 10 minutes, we were chatting like we knew each other forever. And within like half an hour, her mother gets out her phone and she's like taking pictures of us, like this is going to be my new son-in-law, I mean, you could just tell everybody, all three of us at the table, we were like, this is clicking so well. So then after a half hour, despite the ambiance of the supermarket, I said, why don't we go to the Premier Mall, the big mall there in Davao? They have a wider variety. We can stretch our legs, and they were both against it. They were like, no, it's expensive there. I said, no, I'll take care of it. I'll get the taxi. I got Grab and started dialing it. I said, no, don't worry. This is on me, my treat. So we get over to the Premier Mall, and we just spent the whole day together. me, her, and her mom. We got, buko juice. We went to the movies. We went window shopping. We talked. I mean, just spent the whole day. And finally, around 5 p.m., I put him in a taxi, and, I think I gave her like 2,000 pesos. And I said, well, this is for the taxi, and if there's anything left over, just use it for groceries or something. And her eyes got all big, and she was like scared, like I put a snake in her hand, and right away she just handed the money to her mom. It really caught her off guard. So then by the time she got home and I got to my place, we started chatting, and I said, look, tomorrow I got to be back in Vietnam. I said, but I promise you, by January, I will be back in the Philippines to sit down with your mom and dad to ask them if we can start dating. And that's what I did. I was able to get another person to take over my lease in Vietnam. He even bought my motorcycle. And then, like Christmas, I was there with my mom. And by the 7th of January, I was in Davao. And on the 8th, the very next day, I was sitting in a restaurant for 3 hours with her parents. And I said, ask me anything you want, and I will tell you anything. And we did for 3 hours, on and off. They were asking, were you previously married? Do you have any kids? How old are you? How big is your family? I mean, they grilled me, not constant for 3 hours, but like I said, as we were eating, they would come up with another question, and finally, after we're all done eating and they ran out of questions, I just said, I want your blessing so that the two of us can be together for 1 year. And I want her to travel with me because I want to learn her personality. I want to see if we are compatible. And I told her parents, I said, in 1 year, I will have an answer for you. Either I will marry her or I will very clearly decide we're not compatible. It would not be good for her. It would not be good for me. But either way, I said, in 1 year, I will give a clear answer. I will not waste her time. And they talked about it a bit, and they were like, okay, And so then V and I moved in together, and man, next thing you know, COVID hit. We were in the same condo room for most of the year. Only I could leave to get groceries. All the rest of the time, we were together 24 hours a day. And what I learned was we were like two peas in a pod. There was no fighting, no arguing, we just got along perfect, Now, that's not to say we've never had an argument. We have arguments, but we never have fights. The difference is in a fight, you're trying to hurt the other person emotionally, verbally, physically, whatever. We don't have fights. What we have, and I explained this to V, I said, I will never fight with you. I said, but we may have disagreements. You want to do things one way, I want to do it another way, and we need to hash it out and do what makes the most sense. I said, if you want to change my mind, give me a good reason for doing it your way. And if it's a good reason, we'll do it that way, because I want to do what makes the most sense. Now, I told her too, I said, I've been around a while. I said, I've learned a few things. I can usually figure out a good plan pretty quick. I go, so you have to trust me that there are many things I am well prepared for. I know how to make decisions on things. You just have to trust me. I have the life experience to pull this off. I said, but I am open to ideas. I am open to the fact that I'm in the Philippines. This is your country. You know how it works better than I do. I want your input. And so that's how we've been doing it to this day, and when we have a disagreement, it takes us about 5-7 minutes to hash it out. And then without fail, every time we finish up, a disagreement, we always finish it with, I love you. I love you too. Okay, I'm going to go do this or that. We've got a system. So that's how we met. And now 6 years later, we've been married, and it's been pretty awesome. Looking good, man. You lost some weight. Actually, I've been doing like the keto thing, I would say 2.5 years, which that was helpful. It was definitely a huge improvement over my, 40-year, what I call American diet of just eating anything in front of me that was tasty. So when I switched to keto diet, it was a big improvement, because you're just eating whole foods, cooking your own meals, if it needed a list of ingredients, you didn't eat it. You had carrots and tomatoes and meat and chicken and whole foods. And that was a big improvement. And I did lose some weight. But then it's now coming up on 5 weeks that V and I decided, and then V saw me eating steaks. She's like, I want to do carnivore diet. But I'm talking, and I had been doing what was we considered dirty carnivore. And again, depending on just how fanatical you want to be, people would say I'm still doing dirty carnivore because I have garlic or onion with my steak. But I'm not so dogmatic about it. But I am, in the last 5 weeks, I've definitely, bumped it up to like 99.9% just meat, eggs, butter, cream, coffee. That's pretty much what I eat. Like today I came up with a new idea because I was at the grocery store the other day and I was like thinking, because I always have for breakfast 4 eggs and some kind of meat. And by breakfast, I mean 1, 2 in the afternoon. I don't eat anything in the morning. I'm not even hungry. I have my bullet coffee, which I did a video on, and that's why I'm not hungry in the morning. But when I decide to have brunch, it's always 4 eggs and then some kind of meat. So I was at the grocery store the other day, and they had this package where they basically took chicken meat and prepared it for making lumpia. But of course, lumpia has carbohydrates. It's got flour and all that deep fried. But they sell the meat ready to go. And what it is, they take chicken, grind it up, and then they put in the minced cabbage and carrot. And that's it. No sugar, no spices, no nothing. So it's basically like ground beef, but it's ground chicken. So I thought, well, I'm not going to make lumpia, but I can make chicken patties for breakfast. So that's what I did today. It was awesome. I put in some bacon grease to just add a little more flavor. And then I made a patty, like a hamburger patty, kind of thin, with the chicken. I made 2 of those patties, fried them up nice and crispy. I put a little salt and pepper. And with my 4 eggs, man, not only was it really filling, it was really good. So there's a carnivore recipe idea for you. And this is not just, I think I feel more energetic. This is not subjective. I'll give you a very good example. 6 months ago, if I so much as walked to the Sari store, which is only around the block, and there is a little bit of an incline, I would say 35 degrees. 6 months ago, I would walk to the Sari store and back, and I was like, heavy breathing, I mean, I used to have trouble breathing just tying my shoes. I'm not kidding. And then I would walk to the Sari store, come back. I'm like sweating like Sam Kinison on cocaine. I'm just hot. I'm tired. And I would be sore the next day. Okay. That's not good. That's a whole lot of inflammation, lactic acid and everything in your muscles. I mean, that's not good. That's not a sign of good health. And that was 6 months ago. So I wake up 3 days ago and I jump on the bike. I get about a half mile from the house and I realize I've got a flat tire on the back end. I got a flat tire. So it was already, getting on in the day by the time, because what happened was I had a whole bunch more errands to do. So I thought, okay, I pushed the bike across the street and parked it at the 7-Eleven at a restaurant that I know the guy who owns the restaurant. So I parked it there. I figured I'd be safe there, which it was. So I did all my errands, which took me all day now, because now I'm taking tricycles and getting groceries and going to get fish and doing this and that. So by the time I finished all this stuff, and then I got home, and then, I thought, well, I'm just going to walk. So I walked, and I had already bought a hand pump to pump up the tire. Problem is, it doesn't have an inner tube. It's a tubeless tire, which, as you know, a hand pump is useless. You need compressed air to fill it fast enough that it'll self-seal. So I gave it a try anyway. I pumped the hell, and I was like, not going to work. So I had already pushed the motorbike to the 7-Eleven. And now that I knew I could not pump up the tire, I had to decide, what am I going to do? And I figured it's night. If I have 2 choices. I can push this bike at night when it's not really cool, but cooler, or I can go home and then push it in the daytime when it's really hot. I was like, screw that. And I pushed that bike 0.8 of a mile to get to the vulcanizer to get it fixed. Okay. And then I walked back to my place. But the walking alone would have totally killed me 6 months ago. My muscles would have been all tight and sore and everything. But I pushed my motorbike 0.8 of a mile. And I did take some breaks. I stopped like 3 times, In fact, I think the first time I stopped, I sent a picture to Geo and Asia Unscripted. I was like, this is what I'm doing with my night. So then I walk all the way home. And I'm thinking when I went to bed, oh man, my muscles are going to be so sore tomorrow. Oh, this is going to be painful. Maybe I'll get a massage, get V to give me a massage. I woke up the next morning, didn't feel a thing. No soreness, no nothing. And even when I was pushing the bike, I wasn't like huffing and starving for air, I was just like bored, it's like, okay, I'm pushing this damn bike in the dark, but I wasn't struggling. So this carnivore diet, to get back to that point, has made a big difference. And the body aches that I was doing yoga every single morning just to cope, just so I could walk around because my lower back was really hurting. I was beginning to think I had some kind of spinal slippage or something, a herniated disc. I mean, it hurt that bad. There's the pain level thing, like 1 being mild pain, 10 being excruciating pain. The pain I had in my back before the carnivore diet was sometimes an 8. I mean, I had to be careful just getting out of bed. It literally felt like somebody was jamming a knife into my back. I mean, it was sharp pain. It hurt. And I would do the yoga for about 45 minutes and the stretching and all this. And then my right knee started giving me, same thing, pain. And it was painful enough that I had to limp when I was walking in the mall. It's like I had to walk slow and I had to limp. It hurt that bad. This was like 2 months ago. Now that I've been on the carnivore diet, I mean, again, meat, eggs, butter, cream, coffee, it's all gone away. I feel fine. It's like, I haven't done the yoga in like 10 days because I don't need to. I should probably just to stay limber, but I can do without it. And V goes, well, what's your pain level? I go, it's like half of 1.5. It's like almost non-existent. My knee doesn't hurt. My back doesn't hurt. My neck doesn't hurt. My bones don't ache. I'm like, because I was starting to think 6 months ago, damn, am I getting arthritis or something? But it was just inflammation is what it was, in the food, vegetable oils, seed oils, all that nonsense. So I got to say, it's not all about moving the scale, how much you weigh. It's how healthy are you?